Hey, welcome to the Fireside. This is Sean from Firekeeper Studios, and today we're talking to Terry Borderline, a very dope artist, engineer, producer, and mentor to younger people making music, who's doing awesome stuff in the Boston music scene. I really enjoyed talking to Terry, and I hope everyone enjoys listening just as much. After the conversation, there will be a live performance of a new song by Terry called City of Champions, produced, mixed, and mastered by yours truly. City of Champions will also be going live on all streaming platforms on the same day this episode premieres. Enjoy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Peace.
Cool. Yeah. Nice to have you on the show. Really appreciate you coming out.
Yeah.
Would you want to introduce yourself real quick?
I'm Terry Borderline. I'm a recording artist, performing artist, producer, and teaching artist. So I've been producing for probably like 10 years, rapping for closer to like 14, 15. No, like 13, closer to like 13. And like a lot of my topics deal with like society, hidden truths, the occult, love, spirituality, and all things in between. Like these days I'm looking to just like incorporate more things about like life and lessons, especially since I'm a teacher and a father now. So it's like I really focus on planting those seeds. But yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah. No, super interesting. Yeah,
you seen it when I just came in. I'm just building. That's just me. I can talk all day. I'm a Gemini. Yeah.
You have great energy. Yeah. No, I noticed that over the phone and stuff. I was like, wow, this guy's really cool, and seems like we're gonna have a really good conversation. So I was excited about it. Yeah. Speaking of, you were just kind of talking about some of the roles that you take. I was looking at your bio and a couple of the descriptors on there, the bio on your website, that is.
Yes.
And a couple of them I thought were pretty interesting. And I know we talked about them a little bit over the phone, but I was wondering if you could kind of describe what you mean when you say teaching artist. And I was also interested in you use the word editor as a role. And I'm curious what you meant by those two, because they're a little less...
Because I do video editing, believe it or not.
Cool.
Nice. And I used to hate it only just because I didn't have a fast computer.
Right.
So I don't always advertise the fact that I edit, especially because I don't want to say I don't like. I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
If I have a fast computer, my computer is faster now, so it's like I actually am open to doing that more now. But yeah, I do video editing, After Effects and whatnot. If you ever check out any of my videos, I usually edit them myself.
Cool.
And then as a teaching artist, I work for the Transformative Culture Project. Right. Shouts to Latia LaRock. She's the ED of the Transformative Culture Project. We also go by TCP. What we do is we get teaching artists, so it's just artists who like just live their life, right? But have things that they can teach the youth, right? And so then she like reaches out to certain artists in the area. And then we go to like schools. Like I've worked at Boston Latin Academy. I've worked at right now I currently work in partnership with Northeastern University. And yeah, we'll get a round of kids together, whether it's like, sometimes it's like an intimate group, like 5, 6 children. I say children, they're like 19. They're older. I'm just in my 30s. But yeah, we get the youth together. We got like, maybe 5 to like sometimes 10, 11 youth. I think the biggest cohort we had was like 11. But the key thing that distinguishes what we do though from like the average production class, where I teach mainly music production, is we always produce an album or a project. We create something tangible that the students can take home and say, yeah, I did that. Like, what'd you do this summer? Boom, right? They can just play it.
Yeah,
right?
So cool, yeah.
So we've released a couple of albums under TCP under the name The Chosen People. We took Transformative Culture Project, the TCP, and then just changed the acronym to The Chosen People.
Cool.
And so we have one album that's like just the title, which is The Chosen People. And then we have a second one called Lead with Love. And so that one just dropped this year. And right now I'm working on a third one with my newest cohort. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask about some of your 2024 releases. So Lead with Love is a TCP project.
It's a TCP project.
And then the Hierophant, right?
The Hierophant.
Hierophant, okay.
Yes. You can say Hierophant though. Tomato.
I'll say Hierophant.
Yeah. I was at a pizza store the other day, and this woman was like, I said tomato to her.
Yeah.
She was like, this blonde woman, she was such a ditz. I seen her and, something happened. And instead of saying tomato, she was like, tomato, potato. I'm like, yo, what do you mean? Tomato, potato. But anyway, yeah.
It's a new spin on an old classic.
An old classic. It's like potatoes and tomatoes are actually completely different.
Apples and oranges.
Apples and oranges, right. It's a different analogy, but yeah. Continue.
Metaphor.
Were you about to ask something?
Oh, so is the Hierophant a
Yes.
TCP project, or is that just a solo? Cool.
That's me in collaboration with another one of my students though,
okay.
Clearwater. I've been mentoring him since he was like 10 years old. He was like a 10-year-old producer.
Wow.
When I was just teaching hip hop classes. And his mother enjoyed my work with him so much. She was like, hey, can you privately do a mentorship program with him? So for like once a week for at least 9 years now, I think like 8-9 years,
wow.
I've been teaching him,
Yeah.
And so like now he does like sync licensing, he does music production, he raps, he makes albums, he does a whole bunch of stuff, and so like the Hierophant was kind of like that initiation, like you're ready for it. So like me and him, we did a whole album together. He did a lot of the production. I'd probably say like maybe 4 or 5 of the songs I co-produced. But he did a lot of the production, which I'm super proud of him about. And me and him work together a lot.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
One of those songs actually jumped out to me. I was wondering if you could just break it down a little bit.
Yes.
Hands Up. I really like that song.
Hands Up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Hands Up.
Yeah.
So Hands Up. Let me see. So Hands Up has a kind of cool story. We basically went to the oldest record store in Boston. I think it's called Nuggets. Yeah, it's called Nuggets.
Cool.
And ironically, it's like right next to McDonald's. So I almost like tricked my students, like, oh, we're at Nuggets. And they were like, what? This is McDonald's. But we went to the actual spot. And then we found records, right? I had everybody find like 3 records. And then we took it back to the studio. And we found samples that we wanted to use. So I found a particular sample that I wanted to use. I ended up utilizing that, chopping it up, and then making that beat for Hands Up.
Nice.
And then, where I was coming from was just kind of like a revolutionary mindset, but also kind of like a revolutionary mindset, but also kind of like it's a high energy song.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like hands up now, right? Like I feel like part of it is like hands up, right? Put your fist up, right? Part of it is also like hands up. It's a stick up. Like get ready for something to happen, right?
Right.
And it's a call to action for people to rise up, right? And that also happened around the same time the folding chair incident. You remember that? That went viral for a bit.
Can you jog my memory?
Yeah, it was like a racial thing in like Alabama. There was like a cruise ship filled with black people, and they were coming to the shore. They were about to dock, and then there was this group of white people, probably like 15 of them. There was a lot of white people and this one black guy, like a security guard, and they were like jumping him. They were like bullying him, right? And so the security guard, he throws up his hat in the air, and then he starts fighting them, but he's losing because he's outnumbered, right? So then the black people jump off of the boat, they swim to the shore, and then they start defending him. And then one dude grabbed a folding chair and boom, hit somebody, right? And so like the folding chair went viral, and like there was like probably like 4 to 5, maybe even 6 incidents after of random like violence that would happen in America, and somebody would be grabbing a folding chair and just boom, right? Like knock the sonic rings out of somebody. So if you hear on the song, I'm like, hands up now, cliffhangers, how it ends up, Star Spangled, this the anthem, hands up now. Wait, no, I might have just skipped a part. Hands up now. Cliffhangers, end up, Star Spangled, this the anthem, hands up now. Oh, break all the chairs till you stand up. That's what I say, right? So it's a double entendre where it's like, yeah, like breaking the chair, like the folding chair, like fighting back. But then also when you don't have a chair anymore, you have no choice left but to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And so, yeah, the song kind of goes into those themes, and just giving the power back to the people. Because we're in the age of Aquarius now, and Aquarius represents the people, And there's a lot of astrological things that show within the next 20 years, 20 to 40 years, we're going to see a lot of power go back to the people in both the great ways and the bad ways. The good ways are going to be like, yeah, us people, we have more of a choice in things. But, you know, the bad ways are going to be like, you know, some people aren't ready to have their own autonomy. They're like, man, I miss the government. Like, remember when the government used to tell us to do that, this, that, and the fourth? Like now we have to depend on Joe Schmo down the street to, you know, stop at a red light. Like nobody's going to stop him, right? So, you know, like it plays on a lot of those themes and just speaks to the power that we have within. Yeah.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that if there were some big revolution or something, a lot of people would be pushing to just put everything back to exactly the way it was before because that was comfortable, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I feel that's kind of the predicament we're in now where it's like, the government doesn't even necessarily have as much power as we think, but the reason they are able to do what they do is because we give them a lot of our power, and right now they're messing up big time. Like how we were just talking about with inflation, right? And it's one of those things where it's like the more we identify with government, money, fiat currency, things like that. And the less that stuff works, like what's the word I'm looking for? The less it works effectively, right? The more it starts to affect us. And then we start to think there's a problem with us. Like a big theme I've been seeing a lot going around with a lot of people is a lot of people feel like they're not doing enough. Oh, I gotta work more. I gotta make more money.
Hustle.
I gotta, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, yo, everybody is working their ass off right now. Like, what do you mean? Like back in the day, 50 years ago, you could just get a job at Burger King and you could have enough to own a home, have kids, have a whole family, a car. Nowadays, you got to work 3 jobs and you can barely pay rent. So it's just like, is it really us that's not doing enough, or is it the money that's not enough, right? The system that's not enough. So it also kind of plays on those themes too.
Yeah, no, super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think things are changing and things are, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like things are going to get
better.
They're going to get better, but I think they're going to get harder first.
Before they get, yes,
I think. And I feel like we're like slowly kind of seeing the slipping into that, you know?
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
But that's the natural order of the world, right? Things always get worse before they get better.
So
I 100%
usually.
agree. Yeah.
Definitely. So another thing that I read in your bio, and I've also heard in your lyrics here and there, references to indigeneity, and I'm curious what that means to you and what
So I'm Haitian, right? And we have like a pool of different influences and whatnot in our genetics and whatnot. You know, some comes from Europe, like France and whatnot. Some comes from Africa, West Africa to be specific, like Senegal, Gambia. But then a lot of people overlook the Taino and the Arawak aspect of Haitian culture and the Haitian people, right? Like the one thing that ties, like, right, when you ask a lot of people about the Caribbean, there's a saying that people like to say, and they think it empowers us, but I feel like it really takes away our power, is they'll say the only difference between a Puerto Rican, a Haitian, a Dominican, a Cuban, etc., is the boat stop for the slave ship, right? And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, we all experience slavery, but that's not the thing that actually ties us all together. What ties us all together is the Arawak, right? The Arawak people, the Taino, the Boricuan, the Carib, the Kalinago, like all these different people, the Garifuna, all these different people had their own languages and cultures that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Are very similar to the way we live today. Like almost the way we make hot chocolate. Like if you ever had Haitian chocolate, we make it just like how the Mayans did, just like the Taino did, right? If you look at how we do our spirituality, right? What they call Haitian voodoo, right? And we give fealty to the 4 corners and whatnot. This is what every Native American culture did in the Americas, right? These are like indigenous practices, how we deal with tobacco, right? How we deal with the Loi, which the Loi are shared through all different types of spiritualities in the Caribbean. And so it's like I really give reverence to that side. Like Queen Anacaona, she was an indigenous queen of Haiti. And she was a singer, she was a poet, a noble, a warrior. She did it all. And she represented that divine feminine matriarchy that existed in Haiti and Haiti before colonization. And so, yeah, I rep that big. I always keep a feather on my hat, too, right? To represent the indigenous side.
Cool. Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah, that's where a lot of that comes from.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely interested in like indigenous stuff in general, but it's such a vast thing, and I know, just the tiniest fragment.
Have you been to Martha's Vineyard?
No, actually.
I highly suggest going out there.
Yeah.
The Wampanoag, they're out there, or Wampanoag, depends on how you pronounce it. They're out there. Magnificent people. Magnificent people. And a lot of Wampanoag were considered black or classified as Negro. Like Crispus Attucks, the first person to die for the American Revolution, was not only a black man, he was a Wampanoag too, right? Like he was half indigenous, right? There's a great movie too called The Inkwell, which the Inkwell is it's a historically black area in the Martha's Vineyard area. And it's a great movie. Lawrence Tate stars in it. But it gives you that glimpse into the historical black presence in that area. And the mingling between the indigenous people, African people, and how like you can't necessarily tell them apart until you ask them like, oh, what's your ethnicity? Oh, I'm Wampanoag, or oh, I'm from wherever in West Africa, and so it's like Wampanoags are just mad cool. There's this woman I met, Christy. She works at this museum, the Mariposa Museum, and it's specifically an indigenous and African American museum. So if you go there, there's all different types of art and artifacts you can look at. You can ask them about this history, and they'll tell you straight up. It's pretty cool.
That's really interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna have to get out there. Yeah,
yeah.
You said the movie was called The Inkwell.
The Inkwell,
cool.
Great movie.
Oh,
great
gonna
movie.
Have to remember that. Yeah,
yeah. It takes place in Martha's Vineyard.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's cool because it challenges that trope where a lot of people like to think, oh, there's no black people in Massachusetts, and it's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like not only are there black people, but going back to the indigenous aspect, a lot of these so-called black people are indigenous. They've been here before everybody else. Like you got to put some respect on their name, right? Like the Narragansett, the Pequot, like they still exist. They weren't all killed. They use this method called paper genocide, right? And so we look at genocide as like the killing of people based off of genes, right? But when you see paper genocide, it's the erasure of a people and a culture through the census, through paperwork, by reclassifying people and putting people under different names. You can remove them further and further away from their culture and then dispossess them of land, resources, etc. And this is what's been happening in the United States since colonization began.
Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually kind of reminds me of another question that I had for you.
Yeah.
You seem pretty well read, and I'm curious if you have any like favorite books or like desert island books or just recommendations and stuff.
Oh, I love books. So I'm reading a book right now called Conscious Luck. It's a really good book, especially if you feel low on luck, right? You got to change your whole perception of luck. But if anything, so I have a lot of, so one of my favorite books is The Hidden History of Massachusetts. I love that book. It's a quick read, but it's jam-packed with information about a lot of those hidden histories in Massachusetts, right? Especially growing up in Massachusetts, a lot of people, they condition us to have this, Massachusetts is inherently liberal, progressive, whatever those labels even really mean, right? And we've always just been accepting of people of all races and colors, and not true, right? Yeah. Like, sure, they had chattel slavery heavy in the South, but we legalized it here, right? We wrote the laws that legalized it here. The Fugitive Slave Act was created here. A lot of the land was taken here through the Head Rights Act, right? Things like that. Harvard used to be an Indian Reformation school where if they couldn't turn an indigenous person into a white person by the end of the thing, then that Indian person died. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like it was like, this is the dark history a lot of people don't like to talk about Massachusetts, and The Hidden History of Massachusetts talks about all of that. They'll give you names, places, resources, pictures, all that stuff. So it's not just hearsay. You know what you're talking about. You learn that It has the biggest list of all the slave masters that used to, or at least the most prominent slave masters that used to live in Massachusetts. People like Ruggles, right? The Cabots, right? The Dudleys, right? The Everetts, right? We're in Everett right now, right? All these are slave-owning names of families that were rich, owned slaves, traded slaves. They were merchants, all that stuff, which is how they were able to gain the capital to create these cities and these streets. Seaver Street, I love using Seaver Street as an example because Seaver Street's in the hood. People bang on Seaver Street. Like, yo, I'm repping Seaver Street. And it's like, you're banging a slave master's name. Do you really own that street? Is that really your block? Right? So one of my favorite books really reframes the whole entire idea of Massachusetts and lets you question politicians more, especially ones that try to just appeal to you off of diversity and equity. It's like, where is this really going? Because I know the history of this government and what Massachusetts has done. Besides that, let me see. Another book that I love is Animal Speaks. It's a really good book. That one goes into all the different animals that can be your spirit animal, your totem. If you see them in your dream or you see them outside a lot, you know, that's usually a totem speaking to you or calling to you. So, you know, you can always just like flip open the book and be like, okay, I'm seeing a lot of blue jays. What does that mean? Right. And then start to be able to interpret your reality based off of that. And then one last one I'll say is Self-Mastery and the Cycles of Fate. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, the Cycles of Fate. The Cycles of Life and Fate. And that book is a great book. It's a Rosicrucian book. Right? I don't know if you know the Rosicrucians.
I've heard the name. I don't know.
Yeah, they're like Freemasons before Freemasons.
Okay.
Right? But that book basically breaks down how everything moves in cycles. So you have yearly cycles. You have cycles based off of when you were born. So personal cycles. You have business cycles, you have health cycles, you have daily cycles, and you have lunar cycles. And it breaks down what each of these cycles are and how to apply it to your life to have the most favorable outcome in life. Because let's say you do something during an unfavorable hour, but you're trying to make something favorable happen. You can be like, man, going back to luck, you can be like, yeah, I just have bad luck. But it's like, yo, you did it during the wrong hours. You do it during these hours, it's more likely to be favorable. Like when we were scheduling, I was like, yo, let's do it. Can we do it during this? I was trying to find a good favorable hour to do it in. I didn't want to do it at a bad time, you know? And the cool thing is, you know, because my wife asked me one time, she was like, is it just like in your head because you read it, or like do you actually see the results? And I was like, the cool thing about it is you can do something not thinking about the book, then look at what you did and juxtapose it to the hours, and it's like one for one.
Interesting.
On point. Like I was talking to my student Clearwater one day about it. He went to Martha's Vineyard, and he took a ferry back, right? And he said, oh, he met this dude. He did some business on the boat. Like he wanted to connect with him based off of music. And he was like, was that a good time to like do that? Like, was he trying to scam me? Like, what does the book say? So I flip open the book, and it said during the hours he was on that boat, it was a great time for marine to be in the waters to do marine stuff and to do business. And I was like, bro, that was literally what you were doing during that time. Wow. You know, so it's like, yeah, real cool book.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
No, I've read only a little bit in terms of like things that are more, I guess I would say like spiritual or occult or however you want to kind of refer to that. It is very interesting.
Really applies meaning to life. You know? Because when you just, I've gone through many levels or stages with my spirituality. I was raised Catholic, like devout Catholic, and then I went directly from Catholic to atheist, which when you learn more about spirituality and how the world works, it actually makes sense why a lot of people go directly from devout religious to atheist. But went from atheist to agnostic, you know, like I just know we don't know. And then from agnostic to, you know, kind of where I'm at now, where it's like I consider myself like an ominist. I think that's what they call it, where it's like all the different types of spiritualities and religion, you grab a piece from how it speaks to you, you know, and with a huge emphasis on indigenous practices and indigenous spirituality. Because I look at it this way: if you're on the land of indigenous people, you got to give fealty to their ways, their life, their people, their spirits, etc. Right? Granted, my people aren't the indigenous people of Massachusetts, right? My people come from Haiti. You know, it's all the Americas. So it's, you know, that comes first, the spirits of this land, then everything else. You know?
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of like meaning and like, you know, pulling different concepts and stuff, I'm curious, like, how do you get into, if you have a specific approach, how do you get into the lyric writing like headspace? Because I know for me that can be challenging.
Yeah. So there's different exercises I have. Because, you know, I teach this too. I teach this to my youth. You know, one method I do is like a brainstorming method, right? I'll just like grab a whiteboard like that, right? And I'll just write every word that comes to my mind. Every word, right? Whether it rhymes or it doesn't. I do try to like lean more on the things that rhyme. But like if I was writing it right now, I'd be like slime, lime, summertime, chime, grime, grind, find, pine, pineal, right? Like I could just, you know, go on like that.
Yeah.
And I go with the idea that nothing comes to my mind for no reason. Right? So whatever's coming to my mind, just follow that flow state and see where it goes. And then as soon as I say something, like how I ended that with pineal, I'm like, ooh, I could write about the pineal.
Right.
Boom, 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 right?
Yeah.
And then I can use probably some of those other rhymes that I wrote earlier to kind of build the narrative that I'm going to go with, right? Sometimes I do like Ye does this where he calls it like an energy session. And I've kind of adopted this myself where it's like the beat will be playing and I'm not really saying anything. I'm just kind of flowing and just like finding the energy in it. So if you're playing a beat and then I'm just like, I'm gonna stop. Right? I don't know what I'm saying, but I know like, yo, I like that energy. How I said stop. Like that hit right on that. Okay. And now I can record it. I'll record it on like a voice note, listen to it back, start filling in that with the ideas, right? And just let them come to mind. Another aspect is going back to spirituality, right? And finding meaning in everything around me. I believe nothing, or not even I believe, I know, right? Nothing happens out of coincidence in your day to day. So when you do feel prompted to write, you know, reflect on your day. What happened in your day? Like, you know, we came in here, we're talking about rent prices. You're talking about sharing a space with roommates, being single versus not. Like, I take note of all these things. So if we were to like, yo, Terry, let's write a song right now, those topics are going to come up, right? Because we didn't have those conversations for no reason. That's great inspiration to build something and speak about something because it was important enough for us to talk about beforehand.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think you have to put meaning to things if you're gonna be making art. Otherwise, it's just like you're just like in a desert. You know?
Exactly. So there's many ways to tackle it, but finding that meaning is super important. And then you know, you'll find yourself like halfway through a song sometimes being like, oh, this is it. This is what I was creating. Another way I like to compare it, and it works like this way with music production too, right? Music's like a slab of marble, like a big slab of marble, right? And you don't know what's underneath it. It's just a block. But you grab that chisel and and as you're going along with that chisel, things start to form. You're like, okay, I see where this is going. And by the time you're done, you have a statue, you know? It's not 100% premeditated. Sometimes people do it like 100% premeditated, but I find those don't always align or hit as well as the ones that are more with a flow state, which is why, like, you know, when some people, like my wife, for instance, she's like a pure freestyler. She barely writes. She just freestyles 99% of her content. And it works very well for her. And what makes it work very well is not only can she do it at a high level, but you get an energy from freestyling that feels more genuine than you do when it's just like, okay, I premeditated this whole thing, you know?
Yeah, no, I think tapping into the flow state, like you mentioned, is like not an easy thing to do on command, but it's kind of what you have to do to be creative, you know?
Exactly.
It's very, super interesting.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I was also curious, you were talking about music production, if you have any kind of go-to methodologies for music production, or if it's kind of, you know, every song is different, every beat is different.
So I'm huge on inspiration. These days I've been drifting away from sampling. So I do a lot of interpolation or from scratch. And I will listen to a genre or an artist or a few artists for like a week, maybe a month or whatever, and I'll grab what I like from it, right? Like I went through a previous period where I was listening to a lot of Jamiroquai, New Jeans, Justice, Nile Rodgers. So I'm getting a lot of that disco, funk kind of inspiration. So I'm learning like, okay, this is how you get disco strings, and this is the BPM that they're doing it at. Oh, and they're using a Stratocaster guitar that's going like, yo, this is how you do that, right? So I like really break down these things, these elements that I like about it, and then I apply it to my own music, and then I'll make 1 or 2 or 3 disco records, right? And like right now, the period I'm in, I'm listening to a lot of like Thundercat. Right?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I love Thundercat.
He's sick, yeah.
So I found out like, okay, he's using like a semi-hollow, like a Gibson, what is it? I think it's a Gibson ES 335 semi-hollow guitar. So I'm like, boom, I found like the virtual version of it, Ample guitar semi-hollow, which is fire.
Yeah,
right?
Ample's good, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm like, okay, he flanges a lot of his guitars, so I'm flanging the shit out of the guitar, right? And then, you know, I'm using synth bass instead of regular bass, and it's giving that Thundercat vibe, right?
Yeah.
So like that's kind of my production process, you know. Besides that, you know, I like on a more technical way, I will usually either start with I usually start with either chords, drums, or bass. It depends. I usually start with chords. And I use this software called Ripchord. Right?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah,
because, you know, I'm not a live player.
Sure.
So I have to really overcome the fact that I wasn't classically trained in music theory or anything like that. So I'll use Ripchord, and this is dude that I follow. For any producers out there who want to like learn music theory but don't really know music theory and want to have those crazy good chords, like tap into this dude. His name's Musicians Paradise. He has a Patreon, and what he literally does is he'll listen to all these different genres of music, and he'll grab the chords that they use, right, and then program them into Ripchord for you. So then, like, let's say you really love Stevie Wonder, and then, you know, Musicians Paradise has a Stevie Wonder chord pack. You'll go in there, and it's not literally the chord progression that Stevie used in this song or whatever, but he will find the chords, individual chords, and he'll program it in there. So then you're playing these chords and you're doing it in your own progressive way, right? It has its own measures, its own progressions, its own BPM. It's not stealing, but it has that Stevie Wonder feel. You're like, oh, this is the chord that he uses when he did. Oh, I feel it. You know what I'm saying? And then you can apply that whatever you want creatively as a producer, you know? So I use those chord packs a lot. Specifically his bossa nova. He has a bossa nova samba one, which I'm huge on bossa nova.
I love bossa nova. Yeah,
I love bossa, like,
it's so good,
man. I always tell my wife, if we went to Brazil, I'm never coming back. Like, I feel like that's the only reason I've never gone to Brazil yet, because God knows when I go there, I'm never coming back. But so I'll use a lot of the samba bossa nova chords, and then I'll give them their like hip hop twist. You know what I'm saying? And I'll use like, I'm big on like drum loops these days. Like I used to like program my drums a lot, and sometimes I do. Some things call for that. But I like, your beats are fire too, by the way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Every time I listen to that beat you sent me, I'm like, yo, this is fire. Like the way you tackled it.
That means a lot to me.
Yeah, see why it's called Firekeeper.
Yeah.
Right? You got some fire beats, bro.
Appreciate that.
But yeah, I've been using drum breaks a lot these days too.
Yep.
Because, you know, drum breaks have a certain groove, right? Like you can try to mimic a groove from programmed drums, but I feel like the best way to do that is if you actually have like if you're finger drumming. But if you're not finger drumming, it's really hard to get that natural groove that makes drum breaks so special. So there's this dude, his name's Shroom. He makes a lot of really good.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah,
he's a producer too. Yeah. He makes a lot of really cool drum packs for drum breaks and whatnot. He gives them a good vintage warm feel. Yeah. So I've been tapping into a lot of his stuff. This guy, Tamuz, He makes really good drum breaks. So I've been tapping into some of his stuff, and then I'll chop the breaks up and make them my own.
Yeah.
But man, they hit. They hit. Yeah. And then in terms of bass, I use a lot of Sample Tank 4.
I like Sample Tank.
Yo, Sample Tank is the best. I had Trillion at first, and Trillion's awesome, but I feel like Trillion is made for bassists who like know how to take a dry bass and make it sound like how they want it, which is cool for somebody who's just like, they use bass a lot. They know that. Me, I'm not a natural bassist. I don't have a bass guitar or anything like that. So I'm not sure like what plugins or things to put on bass to make my bass sound like Maxwell's bass or whatever. But what I like about Sample Tank 4 is that it feels like the bass, the synth basses are literally made like already for you to use in contemporary R&B, hip hop, jazz, neo soul, all that. Like you don't have to do much to them at all. They're just analog, warm as fuck. Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I've been utilizing a lot of those recently too.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't know about Sample Tank or sleep on it. It's like back when I got it, I was like, I just want something that has like a little bit of everything, just to like cover the bases. Like, oh, I need strings. I don't really have strings. Let me pull out Sample Tank. Whatever. Yeah. And it's been good for that. Yeah,
Sample Tank is so good. In my opinion, it has the best analog synths you can find, other than having a physical analog synth.
And Ripcord that's a nice tip. I use Scalar. It's very similar.
Yeah.
But I've
Scalar is
tried
like Ripcord's cousin.
Yep. And Ripcord is free, right?
Yeah, it's free.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah,
it's free.
Very
and
powerful.
then Musician's Paradise, his Patreon's $10 a month.
Yeah.
What's really cool about it too, you get perks where it's like you can even message him and get custom chords sent to you. Like you can make requests, right? Like let's say who's an artist you're listening to right now?
I'm trying to think of. I think someone cool to ask for that would be like Cassiopeia. You ever heard of them?
Yeah, I know Cassio. You can literally request, can I get some Cassiopeia like chords?
Yeah.
He's gonna spend the next month listening to Cassiopeia and like, boom, here's all the chords you're looking for.
So cool.
And then you might try to use like a specific guitar or like piano that they use, and you're gonna hear it immediately. Like, oh shit, that's the chord.
That 80s like E piano.
Yeah.
Like, there it is.
and I literally spent a lot of my career as a producer like thinking like, oh, I can just do this like off the mind and it's gonna sound like a lot of the people I aspire, to be like. And it never was, right? Like I'm like, oh, I hear this is an A minor. I'm making an A minor chord. Why doesn't it sound the same? It's because they're putting little chromatics in there. Like they're doing little things that like normally you wouldn't think about. So it's like you're never gonna get that sound unless you study them and right? So this last like 3 years, I've been doing a lot of study, and I'm like, I'm not gonna just fuck around and make shit. I'm gonna figure out what I'm making. This is where I'm super intentional. Production, I'm gonna figure out what I'm making ahead of time and then study the hell out of that and then make something that actually has that sound to the T. Because once you have that science aspect down, like okay, I'm using a semi-hollow guitar with a flange, and I'm using a drum break on here that has a specific groove, and I'm using a synth bass that actually has like an analog feel to it. You're going to realize like, okay, I've done 75% of the work.
Yep.
Now the creativity can come in. I can do whatever the fuck I want. And it's going to have that Thundercat sound anyways, right? No matter what. And I can be in that lane.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think me as a producer, I kind of want to be like a chameleon that can do like almost anything.
Anything, yes.
And I feel like the same way. I almost kind of think of it as like archaeology, where it's like, okay, I'm taking out this thing and I'm like, okay, what are its qualities? That, like just like you were saying, it's like, okay, we're not maybe not always using, but we're gravitating to, these 4 or 5 instruments, these 4 or 5 synth sounds, and we're using these grooves, this hi-hat pattern, whatever. It's like these are common. These are like, I'll actually pull up like a little notepad and write down, like if I'm listening to something, be like, okay, this is happening.
Bro, you're just like me. It's literally what I do. It's literally what I do. And I always ask people when I'm producing for people, I ask them, give me a song that you either want to reference, a song that you're listening to right now, or a song you'd like to sample. And they'll give me one. And I will use that as my like rubric. I'm taking notes. Like, okay, so you like Rhodes. You like horns on here. Oh, you like it when there's like choir vocals, et cetera, et cetera. And my goal is to make, like, I can play some of my beats for you too at a certain point. My goal is to make as much beats as I can from scratch
Mm-hmm.
or interpolation that give a sample feel but are not sampled,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So then I can kind of, you know, if I do have to pay for the rights of anything, it's publishing, but it's I don't have to pay that master
Mm-hmm.
fee, you know. And then beyond that, learning how they make those things will allow me to make original stuff that has that feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because once I like you know, going back to like a Thundercat or who is somebody else, Jamiroquai, right? You know, when I'm able to grab those influences from a Jamiroquai, I don't have to sample Jamiroquai. I don't even have to interpolate Jamiroquai. I know he's going to have some disco strings on there. I know he's going to have some jazz chords on there. I know he's going to use a Rhodes. Rhodes, yeah. You know what I'm saying? I know it's going to have a disco like drum break, like a four on the floor type. So I can figure all those things out, and I don't know how to do it immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
I was telling my wife the one band I'm having the hardest time cracking the code right now is like the Matrix is Hiatus Coyote.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
so
they
fucking
do some
unique.
crazy stuff.
They're so unique, man. They're so unique. They do not use regular chords.
Right.
What's her name? Nipalm. She don't even be singing in key sometimes, and it somehow still sounds good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how the fuck do they do this? Yeah. I'm gonna have to figure that out at a certain point.
I remember there was this one song I was working on, and I was trying to do like a jazzy like lead synth solo.
Yeah.
And there was this one passage where I was like specifically hitting every note that wasn't in the key just for like a second.
Oh,
And it
nice.
sounded like really cool. It was like, okay, this is like super jazzy. It's like sometimes you have to just like
Go outside
try
of the
something
box.
crazy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Chromatics really taught me that. Like,
For sure.
Yeah, because you know, because I wasn't classically trained in music theory. I started off, and I feel like this is a great way for a lot of people who like don't know music theory to start off, like finding your key, finding your scale, and just sticking to it. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
But there's a certain point you're gonna have to outgrow that, and you're gonna have to realize like, okay, I can put certain things that are off key with it, and it's gonna give it a vibe. You know, everything doesn't have to be in key.
Yeah.
And that's where the creativity comes in, and you can expand and make some cool shit.
That's definitely one of the challenges that I feel because I really enjoy like unusual chord progressions and trying new things and hearing new things. And I feel like a lot of people nowadays are using autotune, which is like, if you're going to do something that's like out of key, it's kind of hard to program that to like figure that out when it comes to the actual recording and mixing phase. Cause it's like, okay, autotune, we're in F minor. Like we're not gonna go switch to like a different key for a half a
Autotune won't
second.
let
It's
you.
like, it's like so that's kind of a challenge. Like me figuring out how to stick to more diatonic stuff that doesn't have out of key stuff.
Melodyne?
Yeah.
Melodyne gives you a little more wiggle room.
Of course,
you know?
yeah.
Because you don't have to snap everything to grid with Melodyne.
But I normally go Melodyne into autotune though. So,
Really?
but,
Okay.
Yeah. You know, I guess there's a few solutions, but they're a little more complicated, especially if you're gonna like sell a beat. It's like you can't be like, okay, it's in F minor except for like this measure.
I mean, I'm the right type of person. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I understand. I definitely understand.
Yeah.
You know? Like I have some giant steps chord progressions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so like that gets super tricky when you're like, you know, making everything harmonized with it, right? Because it's just like, oh, I'm going into this key, into that key, into that key, into that key, and it's all in the same progression, you know.
That 3 keys? I forgot how it goes, but I've looked at that a little bit. Yeah, it's a cool progression.
It's on John Coltrane.
Yeah,
you know,
very cool. Yeah. So I was curious if you could talk a little bit about the song that we're gonna record today.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's more like a freestyle, right? And you know, I basically just speak a lot about. Let me see it when I do freestyles. You know, I really like to speak about. It sticks a lot with that theme of things that have been in my purview for like the last few months or like month or so. So a lot of things that I'm rapping are kind of just like fresh on my mind, addressing specific topics and specific things like specifically, you know, I address things like what's going on with Palestine and Israel. I address certain things like what's going on with these venues and how they're treating artists, certain things like the current state of music where people are more focused on selling bricks and drug dealing rather than the BRICS nation, right? And what's going on with that in the United States, you know, and making a connection between all of that, because I feel people's priorities aren't necessarily in the right place. And, you know, although I am not necessarily a preachy guy, like, oh, you have to do this and you have to do that. I feel like as a rapper, sometimes you gotta talk your shit, right? Sometimes you gotta talk your shit. So it kind of comes from that space where it's just like, you know, like I've been not addressing these things long enough. Let's address some of these things, right? Because this is actually how we get a blueprint to actually change our situation. You know,
I feel that.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm super excited to hear. I haven't heard it yet, so
I'm
excited to hear it too.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
So it's definitely gonna be fun. I can't wait.
Sweet. Yeah. You wanna jump into it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Am I gonna have headphones?
We're gonna jump into the booth.
Oh, we're gonna jump into the booth.
So
Let's
totally different, like scene change and everything. So
let's do it.
But yeah, thanks so much for talking. It's been really cool.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Appreciate you.
Super excited. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yo. Yeah. Firekeeper, what up? Let's go. Been around the block, seen a lot like a lost wife. Everything I got, a nigga lost twice. Guillotine the dead off the head like a drop light. Spreading in a mean, can I say that I'm not nice? Tired short niggas telling tall lies, thinking that they biggest scamming figures living tall lives. The pro careers on your part-time, listen if you're triggered, then this finger will apologize. Block bites while I draw lines, sentence like a dentist, I separate your jaw line. Palestinian apartheid supporting genocide, but your activists online, they trapping us, can't lean on the activists. Can't capture us, they seen as actionless. Pray like Catholics with schemes of a Methodist. Now I this, which means I don't give a Waste management, you trash ass niggas. Dummies in the economic crash ass niggas. Pushing the insert, still ass cast niggas. Sign the BBLs, you music ass niggas. How you gon' elevate venues or stay on our plate and put artists on menus? Call artists essential, but pay us way less than the workers in fast food. Do what the venue do, take all our revenue. They not dependable, treat us expendable. This shit is critical, crisis is federal. Unrepresentable, streets are our general. Every speech prophecy, don't check me, nigga, check your air quality. Valen who follow me instead of 2 years, how valuable the dollar be rapping. I sell bricks to the nation while NATO is losing to all the BRICS nations, yeah. I'm not mental or patient, but I'm taking stands on any occasion, yeah. I'm like Jay-Z with Ivy, hydrate your mind while I give you the blueprint. More than a movie, this is a movement. City of champions from Massachusetts, whoa. Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. City of champions, whoa. Yeah. City of champions, whoa. City of champions, whoa. City of... Can I get a witness? Call me king, I stand on business. Call me T, I am a parent. Feel my drive while I am staring. I'm a heart, yeah, I'm organic. I cross roads, yeah, I'm the parent. Use my money to replenish. Use my money to replenish, yeah. Shoot my shot like Scarface, yeah. Al Pacino vision, whoa. All the hate and praise it, yeah. I don't need no dentist, whoa. Flood the gates like Venice. What your plan is, what your standards, yeah. Building blacks on cameras, what your vantage, no advantage, whoa. I black out like faders, house invaders, Will and Jada, yeah. Firekeeper, yeah, whoa. This right here is the city of champions. So, put your hands up if you feel me and hand me this. Let's go. Woo.
Thanks for listening. You can find Terry at phborderline on Instagram. Feel free to reach out to us at firekeeper.studios on Instagram or at our website, firekeeperstudios.com. Check out Pete's website, peterdebarrosfilms.com, or his Instagram at killpetefilms. We're always interested in taking on new projects. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Peace.